Well, the Internet Archive does have a business model supporting the Commons, and we're actually doing quite well, which I'm really quite happy about. The Internet Archive has been doing better each year, and it's been shifting more towards getting monies from end users that have been using the Internet Archive, not just institutional partners, which have been fabulous to work with, and foundations, but we've been getting more and more, and we had almost 100,000 people contribute last year. But we're a small organization, but hopefully an example that you can make an organization work, long-term permanence work, and be free and open and accessible and not spy on your users. So, hooray. This is a good news to bad news, but we're going to go out singing into break about there has been some progress in access from libraries. And I just think we should just take, I'm pretty good at complaining or reading the news and thinking everything's going to hell. But actually, there's some things that are going good. Like 1923 is now in the public domain. You can use it, reuse it forever for free without worrying about lawyers. Hooray! And I would like to tip my hat, actually I get to literally, to Larry Lessig, because I think actually the major reason why 1923 is not been extended beyond is the noise and aggregation and the movement that he and others, but he really started. Thank you very much, Larry Lessig. But the public domain, you'd think it would be publicly accessible. But actually, it's kind of like a park with a lot of fences around it with guns pointing out, trying to keep you away from it. That a lot of the public domain is not publicly accessible, which I think is really a shame. And organizations that know better, there's a large search engine down south that has a lot of public domain materials that are in fact still locked up, that we should go, and it's a pretty small little world. Let's at least let people have access to it. But we went back through and found the 1923 works in the Internet Archive, the books, music, and there are 20,000 of them, and we've remarked them all public domain from 600 different contributors. Hooray. There was this weird little piece of the Sonny Bono Copyright Extension Act that said, okay, libraries can go and make things available for the last 20 years that they retroactively extended as long as it's not commercially exploited. Okay, I'm not a lawyer, don't hold me to this, but anyway, that's what I kind of understand out of the whole thing. It turns out to be really tricky to figure out if something is commercially available or not. You'd think that would be easy. You'd just go and ask the Amazon API until they shut you down, right? Until you try to go and get access to some of these things to be able to figure it out. But on the other hand, we have 20,000 candidates, and we've been working at it for quite a while, and there's going to be a long blog post about how awful it is to try to mark records against Amazon records, but we've got 700 works up that are up to 1943 that are now what are called library public domain, free to have access. So we're going there, guys, up through 1943. And those that are around big institutions, let's not draw the line at 1923. Let's draw the line at least at 1943 for those risk-averse players. And let's get those up. We'll go through your catalog. We'll go and find out what is library public domain, and we'll help digitize it and make it permanently available for everybody. I think that's something we should go off and do. But here is even something better. Okay. Up until January 1st, I was unaware of anything during my professional career of anything in the United States going into the public domain because of expiration. In my whole career, it would just seem like it was just a plight of people being idiots on parade towards going and being anti, basically a generation that learns from their screens. But now we're seeing that. But I really didn't think I'd see positive legislation that actually made things more available, right? I mean, could you imagine, right? The courts were doing okay, But the legislature, and then there was the Music Modernization Act. The Music Modernization Act was a bill that was written by the RIAA and put into the House of Representatives, and it passed unanimously, and it was dreadful. This was basically a wish list from streaming companies and dealing with the pre-1972 copyright things. And there's enough geeks in this audience that really understand sort of all this. But that stuff was sort of all torn up under state law. It was really complicated what to do with pre-1972 sound recordings. Should they be federalized? How they should be federalized? And basically what the law was put in place that would have happened unanimous from the is this record, actually, and this cylinder record from the Edison Amberol record. You can tell it's from Edison because it's got his face on it. We're really going to talk about Edison over and over again because he puts his face on everything. Anyway, this would not have gone into the public domain until 2067. I mean, what? So this was going through, and the House of Representatives said, "Oh, this is awesome," and then it came to the Senate, and there were a bunch of us that just went, "Help!" And you know what? We got somebody to help. It was one person, Ron Wyden, and Ron Wyden said, "Hey, wait a minute. There isn't any trade-off here for the public sphere at all in this law." And there was this back and forth, and we just wanted the thing dead. And the Internet Archive went to bat, Public Knowledge went to bat, EFF, the Library Associations went to bat, and we said, no, come on, there's got to be a trade-off. If you're going to go and do more of a giveaway for more rights holders and more music labels, you've got to give something up. And they did. It's quirky and cool. There's two provisions. It's kind of complicated. Okay, but I'm going to talk about the piece that applies to libraries. Libraries are allowed to take pre-1972 sound recordings that are out of the public domain, that are not commercially available, whatever that means. Not commercially available. Libraries can go and take pre-1972 and make it freely available for download and listening. Library public domain. Woohoo! Pre-1972, that's pretty recent, right? And so we went through a bunch of our test records, our LPs that we'd been digitized about 10 years ago. We're about to gear it all back up again. And we found 745 LPs that are awesome LPs in the unlocked collection. And so we're at least, there's a positive movement in this particular area. Another fun thing is we've now gotten really good at storing things and backing things up. When Flickr started to shake and wobble like Vine did, or Tumblr, or Yahoo videos, or Google videos. There used to be Google videos, 6 million videos. They were awesome, but they're gone. There's Mobile Me from Apple. These were very rich companies, but they just shut down these services. When that started to wobble, we wanted to go and provide a permanent home. I'm very, very happy to learn. I got to meet one of the leaders of the new Flickr owner, SmugMug, who's here. You here? Here? There. Yay. That they're trying to find a business model and working on it and committing to try to, so they're not immediately deleting, like we see these notices, in 7 days, we're going to take all this down. The Flickr Commons, and also those people that uploaded things and dedicated things to the Creative Commons. But we've now been backing things up, and I understand we've got 200 million images, which is 450 terabytes that are blinking in the back there, those blinking lights. Some of those are Flickr images going out to the world, as well as on the rest of the servers of the Internet Archive. So that's also good towards going and putting reinforcing structure underneath companies that come and go to go and make it so that if you're dedicating to the commons, it works forever. But what we really like is the URLs to continue working. We've got a real problem that basically when people take things off the web, the URLs go dead. And it could be solved in a number of different ways. One would be the browser companies could go and make it so that if you get a 404 document not found, it tries the Wayback Machine. Wouldn't that be great? but they haven't done it. We've been working with these guys, and we just need more pressure to go and say things that used to be on the web are useful too. So we need a little bit more pressure in making all of that work. Another positive is the blind and dyslexic. We can digitize things and make things broadly available to the blind and dyslexic, low vision people. And we've gone and digitized over 1 million books and made them available to people, which I think is pretty great. And I can't stop patting myself on the back of that, but I've been a freaking loser. Because for most of the time that we've been saying this, it's been accessible to very, very few people. It's very few people because we were scared. And we wanted to make this available to people that had somebody go and sign up and say that they are blind and dyslexic enough. And we basically figured out how to use the Library of Congress's keys to go and decrypt our books in the same way they would decrypt their books. So if you're low vision enough for the Library of Congress, you were low enough vision for us, go for it. It was a very safe thing, and you know what? I'm not sure anybody figured out how to use it. It was not good enough. So we took another step. We went and we anointed and lots of different organizations, and I'm looking for many, many, many more that have organizations that go and work with people with disabilities and allow them to go and take the accounts and say, you are anointed by us, therefore you have access to this, and it's all free. And so we now have a lot more organizations that have been joining in to make this available. So that's good. Okay, but it's still not good enough. When we look at the number of people that have been signed up by these other organizations, it's very small. So we haven't cracked the nut yet. There's another positive thing in this area, and it's the Marrakesh Treaty. So the Marrakesh Treaty is a treaty to try to make it so that it's actually explicitly legal to digitize books in a country and share them with the other print disability organizations around the world. And at this point, all of the blues and reds have had either the treaty signed or ratified in them. So the treaty is going further and farther. We've always allowed it worldwide, and now with this anointing thing, but hopefully other organizations will go forward further. So that's also good news, right? So it's like, okay, there's been some good news. All right, now this is the downer part. This is the downer part. These are the books that are in the Library of the Internet Archive's collections now. And you can see, and it's binned by decade. So decade. And up through 1923, we're actually doing pretty well. Libraries participated. They paid the 10 cents a page to go and digitize a lot and make it publicly available. It's just pretty freaking awesome. It's great. But then in 1923, it craters. People were worried, and they didn't give them to us. So we've been starting to collect books that have been donated, and we've been digitizing 1,000 books every day, which is great. But there's still a whole lot more to go. We basically have a century that is being denied of digital learners. We have a century missing from the libraries of people today. We have the last time that fascism rose around the world went up, and there was a lot of lessons learned, and you can't see them if you're a digital learner. And you know what? We're all digital learners. So this gap, I find really compelling to try to level out. What we need is all of that in line to just continue going up after 1923. You say, oh, well, if you can't get it online, then maybe you can just go buy the book or something like that. Of course, all these authors are all in print and going nuts, right? If you look at Amazon's books by decade in their warehouses, that it goes up to 1923 and craters again just the same way. That basically there's a lost century, not only digitally, but physically, to a generation that really wants to have access to it. So we thought, why don't we try to solve that by doing something along the lines of digitizing and lending, doing what libraries do? Can we go and make it so that these books would still be somewhat available to people, so for previewing or for borrowing? And so we came out with this thing in 2011, and we digitized books that are in modern books, and we made them available one copy at a time, one reader at a time. Okay, it's kind of lame, but it worked. And we've been doing it since 2011, and we thought lots of libraries would come and join on. You know what? They didn't. So we thought we'd try to get more help there. And we said, what was the problem? They said, legal fears. And one of my heroes, Pam Samuelson, pulled together a lot of our copyright scholars to come up with controlled digital lending, position paper to go and argue within the United States that it is legal under fair use and other things that I don't incredibly understand, to be able to go and digitize and lend books as long as there's no more copies in circulation. So, and now there are a number of libraries, but still too few, that are joining in to make this explicit and make it so that they start lending copies from their libraries as well. It works really well for the long tail, the 20th century materials. It doesn't really work for the Harry Potters and the like. So what we want is a Wikipedia where there's a little Read Now button next to every footnote in Wikipedia. Would you like that? So, we want to turn every link blue. We want to go and make it so that you can take a Wikipedia article and find out more about it. We want you to be able to look at it, want more, dig in, and go. And there's been a success. We basically went and wrote a robot, actually other volunteers did, and we helped them out, the right robots to go and fix the links in Wikipedia, and they fixed 10 million links. It is the number one most popular thing that people go to from Wikipedia, and the next thing they want to go to is books, the next thing is journal literature. So what do you think the next two things on the agenda are? Books, then journal literature. So this is our approach on books, is to try to make it so Read Now, and when you click on that, it opens right to the right page. If you flip one back or two forward, things like that, then it pushes you into a borrow situation. But at least you can get something beyond the encyclopedia, which is when I was growing up, you'd get an F if you just cited the encyclopedia. So let's give people some more to work with. So controlled digital lending. We now have a 1.5 million book wish list. This is what's popular on Wikipedia, what's popular out of syllabi, and what's popular and widely held in libraries. 1.5 million. It's about a $30 million project. And we're on a roll and a rip, and we need your help. So we're going to go and turn all those darn links blue. So I promise you that I'm going to go out with a song, and we're going to go out with a song. It was the hit, and you're going to hopefully recognize it by the time it comes around to the chorus, and you're going to have to demand to sing it. It's called Yes, We Have No Bananas.
It's run by a Greek, and he keeps good things to eat, but you should hear him speak. When you ask him anything, he never answers no. He just yeses you to death, and as he takes your dough, he tells you, yes, we have no bananas.
We have no bananas today.
With string beans and onions, cabbages, and scallions, and all kinds of fruit, and say...
Thank you very much.